Welcome to the Closing the Trust Gap podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to visit with leaders from a wide variety of vocations and industries who are unafraid to have honest conversations about how organizations can become more trustworthy. My name is Corey Shear, and I'm the founder and CEO of Trust-Centric Consulting and the author of the book titled Closing the Trust Gap. I truly hope that this conversation is helpful and will inspire you to take action on strengthening trust. Hey, Brad, it's so good to see you. I'm so excited because this is the official kickoff to the Closing the Trust Gap podcast, and I can thank and blame you both at the same time because you've been my inspiration in all the right ways. And several months ago when I was on your podcast, which I want you to talk about a little bit more later, but you really pushed me afterward. You said you've got to utilize this medium in order to get this message out. And I kind of hemmed and hawed and, the obligatory, okay, I'll think about it. But you kind of kept nudging me towards that. And now we're here. It's the beginning of 2024. And I'm just excited. I'm honored to have you on, Brad, and would love to maybe have you just share a little bit about yourself. And then we're going to roll up our sleeves and dig in to the topic that is important to both you and I, which is trust. So would you take a moment just to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So obviously my name is Brad Hill. I have been up until really recently, the executive director of an organization called Heart Connection Seminars. It's been an absolute honor. Absolute honor to be a part of that organization. Before that, was a coach. These are things I do. I mean, I've like pastoral ministry, have experience in that, degree in that. What I really care about is helping people flourish and helping organizations flourish and helping, just helping human beings flourish. And I think part of how we've resonated, Corey, is I know and that there's no way that happens with anyone in a relationship, in an organization, period. There is no way that happens if there isn't trust. And trust is something you got to continue to foster. And so one of the privileges I've had working with Heart Connection and then growing in that space is what we did was we created immersive experiences for people to flourish. Think Tony Robbins meets Brene Brown. That's what I used to tell people. It's like, that's what we do. That's what we were doing. And that's what I got the privilege to do. And I'm still doing a lot of that with myself and leaders in different spaces. So I have never experienced change at scale with intention like I have doing that work. And so yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, Brad, about a little bit more of your origin story on at what point or during what maybe time of your life or career did you realize that those immersive experiences, which you facilitate so brilliantly and authentically, but at what point did you realize that was such a vital part of helping really accelerate trust building? You and I have talked about how there are some times where trust takes a long time to build or a long time to rebuild to somewhat of what it used to be. But as you know better than anyone, when you can engage people in those immersive, intentional experiences, you can accelerate elements of trust in such significant ways. But I'm really curious, where does that come from for you? Where did that begin for you more formally?
So, and I can speak to my own journey of growth. I had never done any work like I'd done, and like I got to be a part of doing with Heart Connection previous to 2002. I had never done it. I was working at a church, a larger church here in Olathe. That's how I moved to Kansas City. And I had some friends that kept insisting on me to go through this immersive experience seminar. It's called Breakthrough. And I thought, man, seminars, I honestly thought it's like, okay, I've been in like leadership initiatives. I've been in, like, we were big Willow Creek people, which is another, church deal. I've been to these things. I've been to all these where you just go, you take notes, right? You go and take notes, and I don't like you get good information. You don't get good transformation.
Mm.
And and uh, and what was really interesting to me was I had never experienced any resistance to doing something growth minded like I was experiencing this.
Mm.
And part of my journey has been to learn to not be judgmental of that stuff and resistant, but to actually be curious about it,
Yeah.
and accept that. And so I did. I went through this, and I've always been an experiential guy. Like I mean, even now, the 4-year-old, like, give me experiences over stuff all day long, man. Like, I don't care about, like, stuff is stuff. Like, I want experiences because experiences make memories, and experiences bring like real transformation. Um, so I remember going through this breakthrough seminar that nobody would tell me about what was happening, and I remembered being so cynical and sarcastic. And I was like pastor nice guy. So like like only people who really knew me got my sarcasm, like my cynicism. You know what I mean? I know
Oh
you know
yeah.
what I mean. But I've learned that is a 100% a poker tell. Like, if you're stuck in your life and you're wondering, where do I need to go? What do I need to do? Pay massive attention to the stuff that you're cynical and sarcastic about.
Mm.
And and so I did it. And I noticed the first night of Breakthrough One, I was like, okay, cool. I'll go along to get along. But there was an exercise that we did on Saturday night of Breakthrough One that I had never done anything like that in my life. And I remember a feeling after we were done that, one, that was different, and that unlocked something in me that's I didn't even know was locked. And two, I'm in. I
Mm.
remember like a definitive feeling of like, okay, I trust this.
Yeah, it was your breakthrough into this
Yeah.
new way of experiencing
Yeah.
learning and teaching and facilitating and establishing community. So you
Yeah.
literally experienced a breakthrough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I look back, and there has there's been a history in my story of like feeling whispers, sensing whispers. One of the things as a coach I'd always ask people is, what is whispering to you that you've been reluctant to acknowledge? And
Mm.
and there were moments in my life of growth moments, and looking back on it, I didn't know that in the moment, where stuff would whisper to me about, hey, have this conversation with your dad.
Mm.
This feels like this matters. Hey, take this risk with who ends up being my wife.
Mm.
Hey, say yes to this. I mean, like, just stuff
Sure.
that I knew. I knew it. Like, it was clear to me that it was whispering to me, and go skydiving, right?
That's a
That too.
great story. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So, Brad, one of the things I remember, you and I got connected. We got connected through Katie Irvin with
Oh yeah,
Catalyst
yeah.
Development. And
Uh-huh.
Katie's fantastic and does such incredible work with teams and organizations. And so she's also this brilliant connector of people. And she connected you and I via LinkedIn. And then we reached out, and it was kind of the obligatory, hey, it'd be great to connect. I'm happy to do that. How do you want to connect? Da, 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 like the whole dance, that
Mhm.
initial connection, which is vital. And you said, hey, why don't we meet in person? I prefer to meet in person. And you drove up from South Kansas City up to where I live in the Northland. And we went over and had a cup of coffee over at Ginger Sue's. And one of the things that really has stuck with me was how you, when I was sharing with you a little bit more about the research and the work that I've done regarding organizational trust, you latched onto like nobody else that I've met on this concept of the tactics of trust.
Yeah.
And so as you and I have now had many face-to-face conversations. I've been on your podcast a couple of times. We've had endless text conversations. You're a voice texter, which is incredible. And it's great to hear your voice come through on a text versus us just typing. But tell me a little bit more about why you have seen within those immersive experiences, why the tactics of trust, if you don't have that, those breakthrough experiences will at a minimum be minimized, but at its worst may actually be dangerous.
Yeah. So I'll just speak from my experience. My experience in my life, and not just in immersive experiences, one of the biggest things that I learned going through breakthrough and other immersives is truly how to trust myself and trust my my inner awareness enough to act on it and to actually jump, to take a courageous step. And when I get to share at places, when I get to share with organizations, with leaders, etc., when I get the privilege of that, one of the things that I know, I mean, it goes back and back and back and back and back, is I know that trust is a factor. I have felt that trust is a factor. I know that it's important to have trust. You say this so well, like everyone knows that it matters.
Yeah.
What I've realized with you, and I think what I was missing, because I would just share Brene Brown quotes, I would share, Adam Grant quotes, Patrick Lencioni quotes, etc. I would share all those quotes, and I'm like, man, Corey has the data. Like, Corey has done the work on the data, and for a lot of people, I think not some leaders for themselves, like they need that data to affirm what they felt, right? And certainly in business, it matters. But I think what they really appreciated are appreciating is the data helps them permeate their cultures with the importance of this. And that's, I have found that to be 100% true. So when I was like, our first connection, I remember texting some very, people that are on my board, my personal board. And I said, look, I just met this dude. His work is different. And the thought that came to my mind is like, he is talking about the tactics of trust, that the feeling you get is the result of trust, right? The tactics are, I mean, you're either doing this or you're not. You're either acknowledging this or you're not, and you cannot change or heal what you won't acknowledge. So,
and with that, I think if you don't have a framework or an approach that's proven or tactics, it can be insidious in that you can almost excuse yourself from the responsibility of pursuing it. Not necessarily out of intention, but it doesn't rise to a priority. And that's one of the things that I've really experienced from you, Brad, is your level of intentionality and your authenticity. It's been remarkable for me. I've learned so much, and I've really learned from you just in terms of not only the encouragement that you've given me over the last many months, but that direct, trusted counsel, and where it kind of emerges organically. It's not like, hey, Brad, I've got these 3 questions. Can you answer them for me? It's more in that flow of conversation. But because you and I have really a strong relationship that is built on trust, you have permission to provide that. And then vice versa, I give myself permission to receive it. And so kind of switching gears, though, more towards organizations that you have observed, whether you've worked within an organization in the past or you've worked with clients through those breakthrough experiences where you have listened to them. Why do you think that trust is something that is so incredibly difficult to build and strengthen and then also maintain long-term? Like, what are just some of the practical things in your perspective that really get in the way and inhibit trust to be something that is prioritized and strengthened?
just a piece of awareness that I noticed. It just, certainly with different leaders I've talked to, and people, I say leaders, like people with decision making authority, and that that certainly could be a position in a company. It could be, we can even go down to relationships, etc. But one of the things I've noticed is there are the wall that I experienced people coming up against was, you do your work to become trustworthy.
Hmm.
You do your work to become trustworthy. And people who have done their work know if you're for real.
Yeah.
And does that make sense?
It does.
And
Yeah.
so, uh, I've met I mean, you can only get by on that for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a little soapbox moment, but like, if you're leading an organization and you wonder why good people keep leading your organization,
Mhm.
it's because they don't trust you.
It's true.
And it's likely that they have or are willing to do work that you likely haven't been willing to do.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's the unlock. The leaders that I trust the most have done their work in their lives to
Mhm.
grow into themselves.
Yeah. And so for you, as you think about, I know one of the most important things for you, you have a personal board of directors.
Hmm.
Can you share a little bit with the listeners that like level of brutal honesty that you invite them into, and like how challenging that is for you? And even when you experience that in like a visceral way, what is your natural tendency, and then how do you kind of check yourself to receive it and then do something with that feedback?
So I'll share a really vulnerable story. Um, the guy, I really got a guy that's, I would say, is like the president of my board of directors. Um, he's he's a very well known author, but I don't care. He's the most authentic human being I've ever met. And I realized about 15, 16 years ago that I really valued people that, one, wanted the best for me and the people I care most about. And so that is currently me, and the people I care most about are my wife and I and my son.
Yeah.
And that's their angle. Like, that's what they care about. Two, that they will tell me what I need to hear, not necessarily what I want to hear.
Mm.
That they will tell me what I need to hear, not necessarily what I want to hear. And how do I know who those people are? Because they have. Because
Yeah.
they have. One of the mistakes I see, I'd say mistakes, it's just a learning opportunity. Maybe we'll say that. One of the learning opportunities I see with people is you're asking folks who've never been to climb Mount Everest, right? They've just read a book on how to climb Mount Everest, right? You're asking
Yeah.
folks who've just read a book that you can read, by the way, to climb Mount Everest, to help you climb Mount Everest.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a lack of competency. Like,
Yeah.
there's a huge gap between theory and I'm like, I don't, theory's great. Like, that's great. I want to know that you've done it.
Yeah.
And so a story, I've got 7, maybe 8 people on my board currently. There are people that have gone off and on. There are people that have moved off because they helped me get to that space, but I kind of sensed that they didn't know how to get to, what was whispering to me to grow to. So I started a podcast, right? And that was another story, like how that all happened. There was trust at the heart of that too. And I'm doing a podcast tour, which was fun. And I was like 2010, 2011, with some people that were kind of spiritual guides for me. I did one with my grandpa, who's 100. He turned 100. I thought it'd be fun to do a podcast with my grandpa. And he was legally blind. He could barely hear. And we're in a nursing home in Louisiana, North Louisiana, in the summer. And it's about 100 degrees outside. And he's got his heater on. And that was that we had this conversation. I'm driving back up that night, and I get a call, and it was from my wife. And I get plenty of calls from her. But it's just interesting that I was super anxious about this call. And she just ripped my butt because I had not been fully honest with her about some aspects of both of our lives that we both shared, a part of our life that we both shared. Not been honest with her about that. And she ripped my butt. And here's the moment I want to really hammer it onto. I was spinning, right? And my first inclination was to call people that would have been quote unquote friends that would have probably had faux outrage for me.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. They would have teamed up with you probably.
Oh yeah. Hey, like what do you think? Like, this is, what's wrong? What's wrong with her? You know what I mean? All this, just, they don't actually care about me flourishing.
Yeah. You want to get your crew.
to
share the narrative.
Yeah. That was my first inclination. And then something inside whispered, you need to call this dude. And immediately when that thought hit me, I got anxious and I knew it was the way home. And I called him and I shared this scenario. And he said, she was pissed, huh? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, good. He's like, good. And I was like,
good. Yeah. Wait, did we, is there a, breakup in the phone here or what?
Yeah. Like I said some things that I'm not going to say on here to him. And he said, if she didn't care, you've got a problem.
Wow.
I was like, huh. He's like, she's right.
Yeah.
He's like, that's actually why you called me. He's like, you're going to go home. She's going to be waiting for you. She's going to be pissed. You're just going to take it and you'll get to decide. You'll get to know, like, own what's yours to own and don't own what's not yours to own.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll talk tomorrow. See ya. And there was a time in my life, dude, where I would have resisted and been cynical and sarcastic about that and those people. But I've learned that if you really want to grow, if you really want to grow as a leader, if you really want to grow as a human being, if you really want to flourish, those are your people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are your people.
They are the trusted few, right?
Yep.
And you and I have talked a lot about the model that Trust-centric talks about all the time, which is the structure of trust, of competency, which you alluded to, and then problem solving, and then demonstrating care for others. And one of the things that I've really noticed about you, Brad, that makes you so unique is you have an instinctive ability to care for other people, but you do it in a way that is not at the surface level, but it's also not like hyper or over the top vulnerable, because I think that you've got to have balance in your vulnerability. You know, we've talked about how one of the most important elements of leadership is about disappointing somebody's paradigm at a rate in which they can handle. And if you're like over vulnerable, over the top too soon, just vulnerable for the sake of vulnerable, that actually isn't demonstrating care for others. In some ways, that actually may just be you kind of blurping it out without wisdom. And so I want to encourage you, and you've modeled that to me. And I know that you do that within the breakthrough sessions that you lead. And one of the questions that I have for you is if there's a listener that is, maybe they feel alone in this current reality of whatever season they're in, or their job or relationship, what are some of the very practical or tactical things that they can do in order to begin this process of kind of setting the stage or the table for a potential breakthrough for their own for their own life? What do they need to do? Do they need to start by getting one or two trusted people around them? Like, what are some of the specific ways that do they need to sit in silence and turn off technology and have, a nature retreat day? Like, what are some of the things that you would recommend as a professional that has done this for many years of how somebody can begin to set the table for their own breakthrough?
Whatever you have to do to get clear about what you want, you do that. And for me, that looks like a lot of different things. But one of the things it looks like for me is usually I'll take like a day or two retreat to just literally get away. And I don't judge it. I don't judge it. I just get curious. I have an agenda, but it rarely goes according to that. And I just write down, okay, in the depths of me, what do I really want? What do I really want to create? Who do I want to create it with? Like, do I have a vision for what that might look like? And don't have expectations assorted with it. Like, just give yourself permission. Give yourself permission. Like, if you need to write yourself a permission slip to actually to dream, like to kind of green light your soul. If you have to write yourself a permission slip to do that, write yourself a permission slip to do that.
It's good.
Have one, I'd say, if you can start with 3, have 3 people that one, that you trust, and 2, that they will give you feedback. One of the things that I've noticed, and we've done an exercise with this and breakthrough on the value of giving and receiving feedback. I think it is I don't want to say it's a lost art. It's a lost art. It's like we used to actually have it. I don't know that we've ever really had it. The value of giving feedback and receiving feedback is, man, it's imperative. And who are people that, I trust their feedback. I trust that they're going to tell me the truth. That doesn't mean it's not going to tick me off, right? Yeah. Like that, but that's okay. I know they care enough about me to give me great feedback, and I can do what I want with it. I can take it. I can run with it, whatever. But you got to have those people. And frankly, if you don't have those people in your life, if you have not found those people in your story, in your life, then you might need to change environments in some way. You know what I mean? Like, you might.
Absolutely. Yeah, that may be the action that you need to take is to either move on or to, in a way, redefine that relationship and be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, man, in my transition, Corey, that you were aware of, I sensed that it was time for me to move, or get curious about it, last October. And I have a wonderful therapist that I meet with. She's a Jedi. So I processed obviously with my wife, and I processed with her, and I noticed myself, gaslighting myself some with that instead of really trusting myself.
Yeah.
And she did a great job of just processing stuff for me. So like this entire year has been me shifting positions from what I've been doing for the previous 5 to 7 years with Heart Connection onto a new journey, like a totally new journey in a new arena. And that takes, holy crap, it takes enormous trust, man.
It does.
It takes enormous trust and people that they want the best for you and yourself, and trust in people that they will tell you the truth. I had a friend that would say, it's like they'll let you run the car in the ditch if they want to, like they don't feel the need to jump in. I'm like, well, I don't want people like that.
Yeah.
I want people who, if they see you doing it, you know what I mean? Like if they see you doing it, then they will say, not that they take over, but they'll say, hey, like, you do know this is, I mean, I want people that will, if we're just eating, this is, a little something, but like, if you got food in your teeth, I want them to tell me this. Okay. I want people that will tell me this.
That's true friend. That is what we call a true
Yes.
friend.
Yes.
Because then otherwise you get home and you're like, oh my gosh, I had that poppy seed bagel 7 hours ago.
Right. And I use that example. It's a little thing, but then you see that and you think, well, did they notice? Yes, they did, because you did, they did. And two, like, I was like, I don't know if I trust them. And it's a little thing, but it's like, okay, I don't, man, I want those kind of people in my life.
Yeah. Even,
that.
You and I, we meet tons of people throughout the week, and sometimes I'll forget their name, and it's just, I'll have to stop and say, I am so sorry.
Yes.
I've got to ask for your name again. And I apologize. I need to be a better listener. But just that, oh, it's not a problem. Like, even those moments are kind of breakthrough moments. One of the questions that I've just thought of to ask you is, in all of the breakthroughs that you have led, in all of, whether it's more formally the 2-day version or over the course of a couple of hours or more just one-on-one, but in all of those breakthrough sessions and those moments, have you had anyone come back to you later and say, I really regret that I walked through that breakthrough process, and if I could have my time back, I actually would prefer to have never gone through that? Have you ever had anybody say, I really wish that I wouldn't have done that?
I've never had anybody say that to me. I don't know that they have. I have no idea if there are people that have experienced that, but I've never had anyone say that to me. And so, yeah. I mean, there are the people that one of my favorite quotes in life. I know I've talked about this. Is the cave you fear holds the treasure you seek.
Yeah, it's good.
The people that will go with you in that cave, they won't do it for you.
Yeah.
But they'll go with you in there, whatever that is for you, in leadership, in whatever. They're your people. And how do you know who they are? Because they have. Yep. Because they have. And relationship shift, friendship shift, life shifts.
Yep.
But those are your people.
That's right. And I count it such a privilege that you've walked into a couple of caves with me over the last few months, and you're not afraid to step into that with me again. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm so appreciative of who you are and what you're about in your authenticity. And one of the things that I want to do, Brad, is I'd love for you to share, if somebody is listening and like, I've got to connect with Brad, whether through a formal breakthrough session that you would facilitate for their team or for themselves, or they need a resource or something. There's a couple of things that I'd love for you to share. Number one, share how do we get plugged into your podcast that you've been doing for many years? And then number two, what is the best way to reach out to you? Is that via LinkedIn, or what's the best way to do that? So I'll let you share those couple of things, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So I've been doing a podcast since 2009-10 called The Dotcast with Brad Hill. This was born out of a book, the first book I wrote. And you can actually, if you listen to those, if you just go back and Rolodex through the episodes, you can obviously see my evolution as well. Leadership matters a lot to me. We did a whole series on the changing landscape of leadership, and how what people perceive to be leadership has shifted. So, and just hearing stories of that, hearing stories of this works for me, this doesn't work for me. This is, from a vast array of folks. So I encourage you to check that out. Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get podcasts. You're definitely welcome to reach out to me through LinkedIn. Like just Brad Hill on LinkedIn, message me. Would love to connect with anyone and everyone that I can be helpful for, and grow and be helpful for too. You can find me at Instagram as well. Yeah, and you can currently email me at pbhl@yahoo.com. So it's a Yahoo address. It's a little antiquated, but it'll work. But I mean, LinkedIn is probably one of the best ways to do that too. So would love to be as helpful as I can be. I'm definitely in transition on a lot of vocational fronts. So it's nervous sighting. That's the word our friend Chris would say. So very excited about it, man. So any way I can be helpful, I want to be helpful. And I just, and I speak for, I know I can speak for you, Corey, on this, and I speak for myself. Like, if you are someone, if you're a leader and you are in a space, first of all, if you're in a place where the people that are leading whatever space you're in are not interested in growing in that space, but you really are, it's not going to work. And you may need people to help you evolve out of that into something new.
Yeah.
If you're someone who has decision-making authority in a space and you can do something about it and you want to, and you're realizing, man, I know this matters, but I need help to do this. I need help to lean in and create space and culture that, I mean, if you care about people, really, they're going to care about, if your organization cares about people truly, then they will care about you.
Yeah.
And if you need help with that, I'm happy to help with that. Would love to help with that. And just grateful to be on this, Corey. So
yeah, Brad, I just again want to say thank you. I want to tell you how much I have learned from you just even in the last few months. And this first episode, it is symbolic that you are the first guest, because this is a breakthrough moment for just a different way for me to engage people within my immediate network. But then as that network continues to move into different areas, like to invite people in so that they can share their story, we can talk together, we can have the continued conversation about what it means to be trustworthy leaders. How do we utilize these tactics in order to close the trust gap? And I'm grateful for you. I love you, Brad, and I'm proud of you as you move into this new season. And I can't wait. And you've got my commitment. If there's a cave that you need someone to hold a light as you walk into it, I'll be right there for you. So I'm grateful for you, Brad.
all right. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.